Hello and welcome to Toby and the Whole Truth with me, Toby Jepson. I've been in the music and entertainment business for over 30 years, specifically as a songwriter, performer, music producer and music business consultant. I've also spent time in the film and TV industries. I've managed artists, tour managed, co-written songs for and with others. I'm a creative writer of fiction and have written and directed music videos through my film company, Big Bad Films. And most recently, I've entered the world of journalism by becoming a radio presenter for Planet Rock. This series of podcasts and my mission is to get beyond the myths, the glamour and the misconceptions by peeling back the layers and exposing the true beating heart of what it means to be in today's ever-changing entertainment industries. I've invited friends and colleagues from across all sectors to talk about their lives and experiences and shine a light on the realities that lay behind the curtain. So sit back, relax, and let's welcome our guests for today. Hailing originally from Ireland, he started his career in rock band The Almighty and has lived a life that I think typifies the struggles, the triumphs, and dogged determination you need to survive with a guitar in your hand and a song in your heart. One of the hardest working characters in the game, truly one of the most grounded and eloquent people you're ever likely to meet, Mr. Ricky Warwick. Ricky lives in California and I caught up with him over Skype just as the coronavirus crisis was breaking and he had been locked down for over a week.
Hi Ricky, thanks ever so much for joining us today, especially with the times at the moment with everyone locked down and the coronavirus problems. You know, I guess it's probably the best time for me to speak to you, because I know you're a busy guy and all that. And when I was doing my notes earlier on, I realised that we've probably known each other for getting on for 30 years.
Yeah, easily. And the rest. And probably then some, yeah. Yeah, probably about 88, 89 we probably first met, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you were signed to exactly. You were signed to Polydor Records, similar time to us. Yeah. Can you, for the uninitiated, just give a very quick, potted history about your professional life but more crucially, what do you see as your central role?
Okay. Obviously originally from just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland, moved to Scotland when I was 14, met my bandmates Stumpy and Floyd, who I'd end up being in the Almighty with. I was briefly in New Model Army, the band New Model Army, for a year before that. Then I formed the Almighty. Then I formed another band back in Dublin, a little punk band called Sick, put out one album. That disintegrated. I sort of disintegrated for about a year and a half, myself back together, started touring solo quite aggressively for about 10, 11 years. And then the Almighty briefly got back together for a little while, ended up becoming the lead singer for the revamped and sort of new lineup with Thin Lizzy, and obviously formed Black Star Riders, which is the current band and the day job. I guess where I'm at now is Black Star Riders would be the main thing.
Okay.
I'm still obviously still the odd Thin Lizzy show, and obviously I'm very much still doing the solo stuff as well.
Yeah. But when I talk about the central role, what I suppose I mean is, if you peel back the onion a little bit and get some of those layers back, when you look at yourself and you're sat in your music room and you're sort of pondering about where you are in your life, what do you think? How do you value yourself? How do you look at yourself in terms of what you're bringing?
Well, I always wanted to be a songwriter, Toby. I never wanted to be the guitar hero, the sort of whittly guy. I was just never into that. As soon as I sort of really got into music seriously, I was all about the lyrics and why those guys wrote what they did or the melodies and stuff like that. So I like to think of myself as a songwriter. I mean, if that's how I would describe what I do in the music industry, I would say I was a songwriter.
I think these sort of things are really important, actually, because I think what tends to happen with musicians is that, especially given that when you first start out and you're the leader, you tend to wear a lot of hats, don't you? You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're organising the rehearsals, you're pulling all the rest of the strands together, and you do it does tend to sort of get quite fractured, I think, in a lot of ways, you know.
Yeah, but I was that guy. I mean, I was the same. I'm sure you were the same. I was the guy that when we were 16, 17, that, was organising the rehearsals, hustling for the gigs, phoning up the promoters, making sure we had a van, and basically bullying everybody else. Because I guess, some people are just more motivated when it comes to others when it comes to things like that. But I was desperate to succeed, and and I hustled as much as I could, and any time I could, and learned. At the age of 16, 17, I was getting the overnight bus down from Glasgow. Quite a few characters on that bus, as you can imagine. Down from Glasgow to London to King's Cross with the demo tape, you know, and £5 in my pocket, and spending the day going around all the record labels, being told that you're shit and to fuck off, and then getting the bus back home that night at 16, 17 years of age. That's how badly I wanted it.
I totally hear you on that. It's quite an extraordinary trip, isn't it? I mean, let's go back to the very start, because I'm really interested in exploring a little bit of where you found this inspiration, where you got your motivation. You know, for instance, your home life. You know,
yeah.
Were you encouraged by your parents? Was it something that you felt you were supported with, or was it really absolutely, you know, get a proper job, son, or whatever? You know, how did your the very, very early doors of you wanting to be what you've ended up being?
Well, I grew up on a small farm, so that my destiny was kind of mapped out for me. It was sort of set in stone. I was going to leave school when I was 16. I was going to come home, work on the farm. That was it. If I did well in school, that was a bonus, but it didn't really matter, because as long as I could read and write and do a bit of arithmetic, you know, I was driving tractors at 11 years old. That was mapped out. So when I did get into music, my dad, I was very close to my dad, because obviously I worked alongside him on the farm every day. And my dad was a really hard-working man, and an absolute man of principles, and I never heard him complain once in his life. You know, he was always up at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, 5:30, no matter what. And I think some of that attitude and that sort of work ethic rubbed off on me. And he encouraged me. I think if my father was one of those guys, like, if he saw I was really passionate about something and putting the work in, then he was all about it. If I was like to him, hey, Dad, I'm going to be a rock star, and, you know, it's going to happen for me, and, you know, I did fuck all about it, he would be like, are you serious about this? Take it seriously. But he saw how much I was, so he really encouraged me, because he sort of said, look, you know, I've been a struggle. I mean, we had no money. It was a small farm, and we struggled my whole life. We just didn't have two pence to rub together, and so everything we had to work for. And he really, I think my mom was more sort of, you know, you got to stay in school. Why, you know, you got to get your qualifications. But my dad was very much like, if you believe in this, you're going to put the work in, and you know, then I'm behind you, you know. But I want to see you working hard at it. So, you know, it was laughable, because I would get up and I'd have the wellies on and the green overall, you know, boiler suit on, you know, working on the farm, and, you know, we'd stop for lunch every day at 12 o'clock, straight up to my bedroom, electric guitar out, you know, in front of the mirror, you know, with the green overalls on and the black mohawk I had at the time, you know, stinking as shit, writing songs and playing my guitar every chance I got, you know, and that's just the way that it was. And I think my dad saw that, so he knew I was taking it seriously.
Oh, mate, that's amazing. It's an amazing thing to hear. I mean, I think, you know, it sounds like a very, very similar thing with my parents. My mum and dad were, you know, teachers, and, well, my dad was a teacher, my mum was a housewife, and we had very little money. It was the same thing. It was just they loved me, you know, so they wanted me to do good, you know. So that's so I don't think there's anything greater than the support of that. I mean, I think this kind of idea, I don't know whether you agree with this or not, but I always sort of thought the idea that you had to be dragged up and, you know, come out of the gutter to be into rock and roll was, to me, was always never made any sense, because I actually felt freedom because I was allowed to do it, if you know what I mean.
You know, I mean, I had two. I'm one of there's three siblings. I'm the youngest. I have two older sisters, and obviously they were very much into rock music. So they had, it was their record collection that you know, started to get rated, and the inspiration from that kind of thing. But yeah, you know, it was definitely, you know, like, I think my dad was probably sort of said, look, you have, you know, 3 or 4 years at trying to make it. If you haven't made it by the time you're 2021, guess what? You're coming back to work on the farm. There was certainly a limit on it. It wasn't like he was going to let me sort of goof off until I was 30, still trying to be successful at it, because I think he would say, look, you might be shite, son. You know, you haven't got a record deal. You're 30. It's time to come back home and work. He was that kind of guy, you know, very honest. So,
well, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? I mean, you know, you're always going to get the honesty from your parents, aren't you? So that's
totally.
Good. I mean, I think actually having some boundaries is a good thing. There's no two ways about it. Okay, so a couple of things then. So I'm really keen for you to really honestly, and I know this is, and I know you will always would do anyway, but I want to know where that first kernel of spark came from. What did you hear first that really made you think? Because I've got a moment in my head I can think back, I can put myself right back to the moment I thought I want to do that. Where was your I want to do that moment?
I mean, there was really two instances told where it kind of started for me. One was Top of the Pops, 72, 73, seeing Sweet, T-Rex, Slade. I can even recall, Lizzy, the black and white footage of Lizzy doing Whiskey in the Jar, and I think back in 72 when I was like 6, and just being mesmerized by these people and just thinking they were aliens and where did they come from and why did they look like that and why did they sound like that. And then, you listen to, Radio 1, Radio Luxembourg religiously, sneaking the transistor radio into bed at night and just being completely, just dumbstruck by this music and these sounds and these bands. And then, you get a bit older. So, you obviously that's going on. I mean, football was a huge passion of mine as well. So, I mean, between music and football, I wanted to be a footballer, as we all did. So when I sort of got to sort of 13 or 14, the big thing was I picked up the guitar right before we moved from Belfast to Scotland. And, that was quite a move for me. And back then, it was never a case of son, we might be moving to Scotland. It was a case my dad came in one day and went, we're moving to Scotland next week. And I went, I kind of like it here. I just got my first girlfriend, and I was playing for the little football team. I had quite a nice life in Northern Ireland. I know there's a lot of stuff going on at that point over there, but I was like, well, what if I don't want to move? Didn't have a choice, and moved to Scotland. New school, funny accent. The guy from Belfast in a really hard, comprehensive school in the west of Scotland. And that was good because everybody was afraid of me because I was from Belfast. So they actually thought I was a terrorist because that's just, people thought back then, So I used that to my advantage. But the first time at school, I started to play, knew about 3 chords. And, word spreads and you go to a new school. There's a new guy from Belfast. He's got an electric guitar. So the drummer comes up to you, in the playground and goes, well, I heard your new blah, which is Stumpy. And the bass player comes up, and then before you know it, you might not even like these guys, but you're in somebody's front room playing with them just because you're the only kids that have got the instruments in the school. And that's really how it began. But the defining point, right before I moved, I went to see Stiff Little Fingers play the Ulster Hall in Belfast, and I went in there a scared, terrified 13-year-old. Belfast was obviously scary because we lived in the sticks, so going into Belfast was really scary with the whole situation. But being in the Ulster Hall with 1,500 punks going crazy, and I went in there terrified, and I came out invigorated and just went, I know what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Jake Burns and Stiff Little Fingers. Whatever it takes, that's what I'm going to do, and that's the profound effect it had on me.
It's such an emotional, such a human. Desire, isn't it? And I don't know where it comes from. I mean, I always remember that fantastic quote that John Lennon says about when someone asks him, how do you write a song? He said, it comes to me on a flaming pie, which I always thought was brilliant. I always thought it was brilliant because he can't explain it either. You know what I mean?
You can't, but that was definitely my come to Jesus moment, and again, I got to give my sisters credit. It was devouring their record collection, Bowie, Free, Bad Company, Wishbone, Ash, and the punk stuff, the Jam, Stiff for the Clash. It was there. And I just, once you get into it, you can't get enough of it. You just start devouring everything, And my father would, Johnny Cash, Patsy Cline, my dad would listen to that stuff, all throughout my childhood. So that just all resonated with me, Toby,
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let's just talk about a little bit the real early days. So you're in Scotland. You've moved from Northern Ireland. You're in Scotland.
Yep.
You've met Stumpy. You've met Floyd. You're starting to sort of formulate some sort of idea.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about what that process meant and how that worked? Because this is the stuff I'm really keen people to sort of start to understand. Because a lot of being in a band is, especially in the early years, he's built off the sort of the desire, of course, but it's also built off this sort of, you have to start a work ethic, don't you? You have to establish what you're going to do, where your focus is, and you've got to be strong. I mean, how did that all map together with you guys?
Well, we just started rehearsing. We had like a part of an old shed on the farm that my old man let us have. So we got in there with the, with the chipboard and redecorate it and put graffiti over it and try to soundproof it with the egg boxes, as you do. And I just remember, that was in the west of Scotland. I remember the winter of 1980 was, I think it was, one of the worst on record. And we were trying to paint it. And I remember the paint was freezing when we were putting it on the walls. And we'd rehearse with duffel coats and gloves on and all around this one space heater, trying to keep warm. And we'd rehearse every Sunday after sort of Sunday from about 1 o'clock to, 7, 8 o'clock at night was our rehearsal time. And, friends would come up and hang out and watch us rehearse. And in that whole thing, we didn't know what kind of band we wanted to be. We were doing like Doctor, by UFO straight into sort of Teenage Kicks to, you know, anything that just had guitars in it. We're like, well, let's be a heavy rock band this way. Okay, let's be, you know, we didn't have a clue. And, you know, we made our own speakers. We would go into the catalogs and buy the speakers, and then buy the wood and build our own speaker cabinets.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know, and you know, Floyd was particularly good at that. He was really good at electrical stuff. So he would build the speaker cabinets, and we just borrow and steal amps from our friends, or, you know, just anything that would get us through it. And it was just fun. And then, you know, once that started progressing, I sort of said, look, I got an idea for a song, and we'd start trying to write our own songs, and they were terrible, but we thought they were great at the time. You know how it is.
Yeah. But was there, what I suppose what I'm trying to get at here, and I hate to keep pressing you on it, but I think this is the interesting stuff. Was there an inherent plan, and was it just yours? Were they following you? Do you know what I mean? Did you always have an eye on the horizon, or was there no plan at all? It was like, we'll just see what happens, and I don't care as long as we're playing.
No, I always believed that I was going to make it in the music industry. I mean, as facetious and arrogant as that sounds, and I don't mean it to, I just believed. I just did. I just believed that I would. I knew I wasn't a particularly great singer. I knew I wasn't a particularly great guitar player, but I knew that I had something that when I went to see other bands, I was either bored, or, you know, that they had a great singer who could sing but had shit stage presence. I knew that I just instinctively sort of knew that I had something. And so I was definitely, you know, really driven. Yeah. And I would drag everybody else with me. Not to say that Stumpy and Floyd weren't, because they were, but I was over the top. I mean, I was like, if you're 10 minutes late for rehearsal, what do you mean you're 10 minutes late? Well, I had to finish. It doesn't matter, you know. I was that guy.
Yeah.
You know, the pain in the fucking arse about it. I was like, no excuses. You need to be here for rehearsal. You don't, you know. So yeah, that was just the whole. The plan was to sort of, you know, world domination. Write the songs, become a proper rock and roll band, and start playing, and start, you know, playing live and get a record. You know, back then, as you know, it was all about getting a record deal, because you knew if you got a record deal, you know, back then you could quit your job. You actually could quit your job and do it full time, and that was a huge carrot when you're kids. You know, you're like, okay,
totally.
This is going to be, you know, shoveling chicken shit every day. So that was it. You know,
but it sounds like to me that just listening to you there, that, you know, listen to the passion in your voice about it all, is you still got that. You know, I think that's inherent in people. I don't think there's, you know, if you hadn't discovered rock and roll, you'd be the most amazing, I don't know, computer programmer, or the most fantastic driving instructor. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of inherent.
I'll tell you something. I wouldn't have been a good farmer because I was crap at it. I think my dad was kind of relieved when the whole music thing took off, to be honest with you.
but I suppose what, you know, I think one thing that's kind of very, very common amongst people that lead bands, that are in bands, because let's be honest, and I think this is one thing people don't understand about the music business, being in a rock and roll band. It's the hardest. I mean, I've done a few jobs. I've been in the film business. I've run a building firm. There is nothing harder than being in the music business.
No, it can be soul destroying, because there's nothing else like it, and it's a true labor of love. And people, like you said, don't, I think, fully understand that. There's no healthcare. There's no insurance. There's, you know, the pay's lousy. You know, there's no other industry like ours. Any other industry, people will be up in arms, and unions would be out, they'd be protesting, there'd be picket lines for what we get paid for making records. And there's a great quote by you know, from Woody Guthrie, when somebody sort of said, "You're just a musician, you work hard." And he's like, "I've got calluses on my fingers just the same as you have."
Yeah.
You know, and that's very true. You know, it's the amount of work, the sacrifices that you have to make, the being away from home. And the people go, "Why don't you just get a normal job?" And I went, well, you know, because I love what I do. I love it. Why should I? Why should I take something that's going to make me miserable? You know, I'm going to complain. Everybody complains, but I genuinely love what I do, which is why, you know, that you and I are in our 50s and we're still talking about our passion and our love for music. It never leaves you. I mean,
no.
I mean, if we're moving on, it did leave me for about a year, and maybe I can get into that when we get further down the road. And I'll tell you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I totally agree with all you're saying there. I think there's a kind of, and this is where it always kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. And I don't know whether you agree with this. And I'm kind of, this is me, I'm being a bit rhetorical here, really. But the idea that being a musician isn't a proper job has always really pissed me off.
Oh, me too.
Because because the reality is if you look at the entertainment business on a worldwide scale, I mean, okay, our business has gone through, our industry has gone through a terrible crises over the last sort of 10, 15, maybe even 20 years when the internet first started emerging and all the rest of it. We know that we made mistakes. We know that the people at the top made mistakes about getting hold of a handle on the whole digital revolution and all the rest of it. But the reality is that music is in every single home in the world.
Yeah.
Every single person, specifically in the Western world and probably in most developing countries as well, music is at the central ethic of the human experience. Yeah. And so why is it degraded? Why is it run down? Why are we made to feel like we are second class, if you like, or we're stupid for wanting to do that? That, to me, is always been the biggest struggle.
It's insulting. Yeah, it really is. I mean, let me ask you this, Toby. Have you ever gone on the road and brought a mate with you who has been cynical, who sort of said, I'll come out with you, let's see what this music lark's all about, it's going to be a right old laugh? Have you ever done that?
Yes.
And seen how they sort of fade after 2 or 3 days? I brought my cut back in sort of early 2000s. I was doing some solo shows around Ireland, about 9 or 10 shows all in a row, no days off, 10 shows. And my cousin, who I love dearly, is an accountant, and he's like, this rock and roll thing is, it's so easy, you don't know what. I said, come on out on the road with me, get some time off. So he gets in the car, and the first thing is, he says, right, okay, we're going to Galway. I thought we could stop off here for lunch, and then there's a monument I like to visit on the way, and we'll probably, what time are you on? 9 o'clock. Okay, so we get to the gig about 8:45. That's enough time for you just to jump up and do your, and I just sort of said, okay, right, And of course, after 3 days, when I was out there on my own, lugging boxes of T-shirts, playing for 2 hours, standing at the merchandise booth after the gig, driving, getting to the shitty guest house, he was like, he quit. He went home after 4 days. He went, I can't hack this. He said, I get it. He said, this is insane. He said, I had no idea.
If you try to explain to anybody, I always sort of think, people sort of say, well, what do you do? So, well, you know what? If I actually added up the amount of hours I spent working on my band and on my music, I would be it'd be like £1.50 an hour or something. You know what I mean? If it came down, in terms of how, because people don't value. I think this is the trouble, is it? With people don't value art in the same way, do they?
They don't. A lot of people think art should be free, which is a huge misconception, a huge insult. It makes me. I get people as well going, just go back from my holidays, and how was it? Well, we flew to Florida. It was a 5-hour flight, so we spent the first 2 days just getting over the jet lag. And I was like, really? Guess what? It's 11-hour flight from LA to London. I arrive and I'm usually on stage the same day that and it's just that's what's laughable. And I think that and unless you're there and you do it and you experience, people always, rock and roll has a glamorous fairy tale, you guys are it's a money for nothing song for Dire Straits. That's exactly what people think that it is. And you and I both know, unless you're at the highest level, which brings its own different stresses and complications as well.
Absolutely.
It's really tiring, and you're constantly moving, you're constantly packing and unpacking suitcases. You're out there subject. I think it's going on right now. You're open to every virus and disease that's going on. Pick up. It's not an easy life, but we love it, and that's why we do it.
Absolutely, mate. Okay, well, let's just move forward a little bit in your career then. So, this is at this point we kind of met, really, is that we were part of what people referred to as the second wave of British heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. I hate all those bloody titles myself.
Me too.
I don't even know what it means. That's just a journalistic load of nonsense to me.
Yeah.
But the point is that we in a crazy way, and I just wondered if you kind of agree with this. We were, I think, the very last generation of bands that got a major record deal. And at the time, it was the perfect storm, because the record industry was flush with cash, wasn't it? Because of the whole CD revolution and everyone was rebuying music after and selling all the vinyl and buying CDs. And so there was tons and tons of money around. And we found ourselves, and I think I would probably presume that you did as well, found ourselves in this extraordinary situation where we're all of a sudden got a major record deal with a huge record company.
Mm-hmm.
What was a couple of questions? It's a double question, really. How did that feel? just the actual the glory of that. How did that feel to you? And what was the result of it? You know, pretty quickly after you had signed the deal. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was, it was unbelievable. It was everything I dreamed of. It happened very quickly for us. I know it happened pretty quickly for you guys as well. We'd only been a band for less than a year when we signed to Polydor. It was, and we played 12 shows. And I always was nervous because I was thinking somebody was going to go, "Ha, you don't really know what you're doing." And I didn't. And I was just waiting for somebody to sort of say that to me and suss me out. And I go, "Shit, I've been rumbled here." But it happened so quickly, and it was such a whirlwind that it was almost laughable because it was so easy. Mm. And I don't mean that to come off as sound arrogant, but I mean 12 shows, 11 months, like yourselves, where we were both signed to Polydor, a huge record label, and I'm sure you were the same. Polydor to me was so iconic because of that red label, and because of Hendrix and the Who and the Jam and all those. Yeah. I was like, that's the label I want to sign with, just because of that record label, regardless of anything else, Yeah. So we were just, I mean, I'll never forget. We went down to, they paid for us to go and do some demos in the studio in Cornwall, beautiful studio, in a little town called Fowey in Cornwall, near Goland. Mm. And we headed down there, and we still hadn't signed the deal, but it was imminent, and they'd stumped the money for the demos. They'd organised the photo session. And I remember going to pick up Floyd in the van, and Floyd looked great. He had a beard, and his hair was down to his neck, good-looking guy, And I went and picked him up, and he came to the door, and he cut his hair off.
Oh, no.
And I went, "What are you doing?" He went, "Well, my mom said that I need to cut my hair off, and I'm starting a computer course next week, so I need to be respectful of going to computer." I went, "Mate, we're signing to Polydor on Monday." I was like, "Yeah, but..." He's like, "Yeah, but what if that doesn't happen?" I went, "It is going to happen." We just, and it was just still, and I was like, "Oh God." And then Stumpy, bless him, and he was the same as me, 3 months early when Polydor first came to see us play his live, had quit his job the next day when everything was up in the air. He's like, "That's, So that just shows you kind of personalities you're dealing with. But we just couldn't believe it. We just couldn't believe that we'd been given the keys to the sweet shop. We're in Sound Control in Glasgow, which was our go-to music store, where we used to just go and ogle all these amps and Les Pauls, and suddenly we'd 25 grand to play with. We go in and go, "I'll have that one, I'll have that Marshall stack, we'll have," and then we're in Abbey Road, Studio 2, 2 weeks later, where the Beatles did their shit. Yeah. And we're 21 years old, the same as yourselves. And it's like, what the fuck is... It's brilliant, but just at the same time, you're kind of going, something's not right. Somebody's going to rumble us. I remember standing in Studio 2, and I get all this brand new gear, Toby. I didn't fucking know how to turn it on. Do you know what I mean? Where's the on switch in this Marshall? How did, it was that so naive. But that was the beauty of it, I think as well.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think they call it the impostor syndrome, don't they? When you think you're going to get found out, But I couldn't agree more. I think that's a massive part of it. I mean, one thing I remember about you guys is that our manager at the time, Kevin, was friendly, I think, with your manager at the time,
Tommy T. God bless him. Yes. Yeah.
And Tommy and Kevin had known each other, so we were sort of I don't think we'd kind of met, but I remember Kevin saying, "Oh, there's a new band that signed into Polydor, and they're called the Almighty," and I thought it was the greatest rock and roll band name I'd ever heard in my life.
Thank you.
Genuinely, and I still think it's probably one of the top 5 greatest rock band names ever. How did you come up with that?
I came up with that when I was in New Model Army. I was on tour in the States. We'd been a 7-week tour, and we had a kind of beat up old tour bus, and the AC kept breaking down. And of course, it broke down when we were in Arizona in July. So it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit outside, drenched in sweat. We can't sleep. So you start having these delirious sort of sleeps and dreams in your bunk when you can actually fall asleep. And I had this dream, and this, as weird as it sounds, I had this band who were not a heavy rock, we're not a heavy metal band, by the way. It was a band that sounded almost like that band, the Smithereens or the Long Riders, and we're all playing Gretches, and that was our look, and the whole thing. And the name of the band was The Almighty. And I just woke up and I went, that's, like you said, that's the greatest band name I think I've heard. Wrote it down. in my little notebook and forgot about it.
Wow.
You know, and that's honestly how I came up with the name.
That is amazing. Well, I mean, you know, I you know, as you probably know, I mean, I don't know whether we ever discuss this. I'm not a religious man. Certainly not an organized. You know, I'm not into an organized religion at all. But I am a very spiritual person. I think there's these things are visited upon us. I don't know how I could write songs otherwise. And of course, you know, I've woken up with songs in my head that have then ended up being hit records. You know, so it's kind of crazy. So you have to sort of go with it, really, with these things. I think, and
of course you do. Yeah.
And I think I mean, do you agree? Part of the skill. I mean, this is just a little aside here, but it's while we're on this subject. I think part of the skill of being a musician is learning to recognize when those moments are those moments.
Absolutely. And
because they can so easily pass you by, can't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's that. Absolutely. That's why I've got a consultation business called Lightning in a Bottle, because I think that's what it is. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle, these little moments.
Totally.
Do you recognize that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, everything felt right about the Almighty from the start, from when I'd finished my time in New Model Army. I mean, I was really just a touring musician with New Model Army. And you know, I'm still great friends with those guys to this day. And Justin, the singer, said, look, you know, we're going to make a record. We'll give you a shout when it's done. We're back on the road. And I said, look, you know, New Model Army, one of my favorite bands. I have an idea for a band. I'm going to go off and give this a go. And that was quite a big thing to give up, because I had, you know, at 2021, being the New Model Army was fucking cool. You know, I was getting to tour the world. Okay, I wasn't involved in the writing or anything like that, but I'm still in one of my favorite bands. But I was so sure that the Almighty was going to work that I turned around and went, no, I'm going to go off and give this and give this up. You know, I was living in Bradford at the time. You know, I was getting, you know, a few quid a week for being in New Model Army, and I went, no, I'm going to give all that up. I'm going to move back to Scotland. Which I did for a year. Moved back to my parents for a year, and you know, called up Stump and Floyd, and I laid it out to them. I said, I've got this name for this band. It's going to be called the Almighty. This is what we're going to look like. We're going to sound like a cross between Sham 69 and Motorhead, and this is what's going to happen. You know, I had it planned, and I said, you know, 80% of it's going to be bullshit. You know, we're going to just bullshit people into believing the lie that's going on here. But it, you know, it's obviously it's a truthful lie, but we're going to hoodwink people to think this is the greatest, you know, nastiest, dirtiest rock and roll band to come out of Scotland. We're going to come down. We're going to play the marquee. We're going to get in fights. We're going to, you know, cause mayhem. We're not going to hang around. We're going to get back in the van and go back up to Scotland. And we're going to come down 3 weeks later. And that's what we did. And Tommy T, who you obviously just talked about, who managed this, him and I sat and planned that strategy in Leeds train station on Christmas Eve in 1987. We sat and wrote this strategy out, how we were going to do it. And
that's focus.
You know?
That's an amazing focus. I mean, because I think that is a big thing, you know, and I want to get onto this a little bit later on, just to touch upon it now, is that one of the things I think lacks nowadays is that sense of vision, that sense of focus, because everything is shifted from the actual physical reality of being in a band. It's all shifted now online. So as we know, you know, I just think every record that comes out at the moment, you know, it sounds the bloody same, because everyone's using the same processes, the same processors, the same plugins, the same process. All the drums are on the grid, etc., etc. There's no reality to the human aspect of being in a band. Now, would you agree with that?
Yes. I mean, totally agree with that. You cannot replace the human element. You can, no matter how great the technology is, you can never replace that. It's like why, you know, a lot of people are doing a lot of great online stuff right now to help us get through the crisis that we're in. And that's great. And, you know, there's people putting on full shows online, full bands. And it's great. But it's not the same. It's not the same as being there and feeling the passion and the power coming off the people that are on stage and standing with people beside you that are getting into the music and you all have a common goal. It's irreplaceable. And it's the whole thing. It started when, you know, the first drum machines came along. They're great, and they're great for getting ideas and demos done. You can't replace human spirit and human DNA in the music. I have a thing that's, you know, it's the same thing where people that sample stuff, other songs into the tracks, it's never the same as you and I or any musician sitting and learning a cover version. Say you and I learned Stairway to Heaven. I know it's a bad example, but say we learn that. We're playing that song. We're learning those chords. We're tapping into the vocal. We're tapping into the feeling. That's now in our DNA. Some of that song is rubbed off on us. Yeah. If we were just to sample that and stick it in our song, you know, there's no
Yeah.
benefit to anybody, you know, which, you know, so I just couldn't agree with you more, mate. I think it's the way to go. I know that we, you know, with Black Star Riders, we all live very far apart and it's not easy. And we do use technology a lot to send ideas to each other. And that's brilliant. But when we get together, it's all in the rehearsal room for 10 days, looking at each other, playing at each other. The drums, everything's going down as live as much as possible. Yes, we do use technology for a couple of shortcuts, but there's no auto tune. It's still, we're still in there making a record the same way that I made it when I made the first Almighty album back in 1989.
Yeah, brilliant. No, absolutely. So what I'd like to discuss now is that I know that you know, I always regarded you guys as one of the absolute hardest working rock and roll bands because I recognise it in myself. You know what I mean? I could see you guys working your balls off. It was the same with us. We always believed in ourselves. Yep. So it felt like it was a parallel thing. But I know that you went through quite a dark period, sort of in the middle period, didn't you? Where you split the band up. You went and you formed your band Sick in Dublin. back in Dublin, and that kind of didn't sort of work out for you. But then because what I'm really keen to talk about, and I think I mentioned this when I sent you my original email, is that I just don't think, because I think every musician in every artist, I mean, of course, everyone on the planet probably, but I think it's particularly quite acute when you're a creative person because it's part of the part of the landscape. But I do think we all, in one way or another, suffer from some form of mental anguish, you know, some sort of mental or mental health issues through our lives. I certainly have, and I'm not afraid to talk about it at all because I think it becomes a cross to bear because of the very nature of wanting to produce creative work and the fallout of that when it doesn't succeed, etc. So what I would like to ask you, and you know, you can tell me as much or as little as you want to, but what are your experiences of that and what were your strategies to overcome them and how difficult was it for you?
Great question. I'll answer it as honestly as I possibly can. What the rot sort of set in, obviously there's the drinking, there's the drugs, there's the partying that just goes back then, goes hands in hand. And that we were mental partiers. I'm not going to hide it. And there was a lot of drugs too. Thankfully, no heroin or stuff like that, but there was a lot of cocaine, ecstasy, speed, a lot of speed, and we, you know, a lot of acid. And you know, we were mad into it. And then, you know, put the drink on top of that, you know, and it would be every night. And you don't, at 23, 24, 25, you're invincible. I'll be fine. The hangover's gone by 2:00 the next day. You're on stage, but you're not realizing the mental toll that's taking on your mind and everything that's going on, because you just don't. And also couple that with, I'm sure that, you know, obviously I know that you went through this because we talked about it. People leave record companies, you build up relationships, you get promises made, you work your ass off, and then the guy who believed in your band suddenly isn't there, and the new guy comes in, doesn't quite get your vision. And that just seemed to be happening all the time. We'd done a huge American club tour. We'd been out for 3.5 months. And we did it in a van. So we'd get up every morning, you know, at 7:00, drive 800 miles, get to the next city in America, set up, play, drink and party like fuck, it's our own fault, and then repeat for 3.5 months. Outside of New York, outside of LA, 10, 12 people if you're lucky at the shows. You know, in the UK, album had just gone at number 5. We're playing Brixton. You know, it's. And it was a head fuck. So I think we came back and we did the tour with the Wild Hearts and a band called Curb Dog went out, which was a great tour. I think we did end up doing 2 nights at the Forum in London, both sold out. It was brilliant. I was off my tits. I mean, I was fucking just wasted, you know. I was in a bad way. And then we had a huge falling out with Polydor. And sadly, I've fallen out with Tommy, our manager back then. And then we ended up on Chrysalis with a new deal and new people who were amazing, a great label to be on. Really excited, really into the band, got everything I wanted to do. You know, we recorded the album Crank, which is probably my favorite period of being in the Almighty. That sort of 1.5, 2 years. The band was the most cohesive it's ever been. I think that's our best record. It was just a good time. But I was going through a horrible divorce at the time. And I'm of that generation where I was taught to keep my feelings to myself, and never, it was a weakness if you poured it out. So I didn't. I kept it all bottled up inside. Everything will be fine. Everything will work out. Same thing happens at Chrysalis. That was the day sort of Chrysalis got dissolved, and everybody get fired. So here we are. I think we put out our last sort of album, Just Add Life, that week, and there was nobody left at our record label, so the album didn't get promoted properly. And I'd just been through this, and I've been through the divorce, which I ended up with really just the shirt on my back, And Andy Cairns from therapy said, mate, he says, why don't you, I was living in London, he says, why don't you just come over to Dublin, and get away from it all and chill out. So he let me stay at his place for a few weeks, which was brilliant. And of course I had a great time. It was brilliant. I'm back in Ireland. I loved it. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to move here. I'm just going to move here and start again. Moved to Dublin, started again, started Sick, which was two of the nicest guys, 3-piece band. We were great. Fuck's sake, the Enemy started to like us. I'd never had any. The Enemy hated the Almighty.
That's unbelievable.
Suddenly we're in the Enemy, and there's a vibe. And suddenly MCA Records want to sign the band. We go to Japan. We do a small tour of Japan, which is great, and everything's great. And this is sort of 97, 98. We played a show with the Wild Hearts at the Old Astoria, and our manager at the time, Sanctuary Management, came down with the contract that we're going to sign on the Monday. I get a call first thing on the Monday morning. It was with the American end of MCA. The guy who's going to sign us has been fired. All deals are off the table.
Oh my God!
And I went, I can't take this anymore. I can't physically and mentally take this anymore. I put a lot of my own money into Sick as well. Pretty much all of it. So I'm back in Dublin, about to hit 30. No money. No girlfriend, no marriage, ugly divorce, no management, no publishing deal, broke, nothing. And I didn't know what to do. And doing bad choices, and it's all on me, it's nobody else's fault but mine. Doing way too many drugs. Because when you're broke, you can always find drugs, isn't that the way? And just a mess, and hanging out with people that weren't doing me any favors. Again, my choice, not theirs. I'm the one that decided to do that. And hating myself, and hating music, and hating the music industry, and hating guitars, and hating amps, and hating drums, and just going, I've given this, 11, 12 years of my life, and look where I am. So I'm not going to do it anymore. So I started going to a gym just to try and get myself, just more to detox than anything else. And there's a great guy on the gym in Dublin by the name of Pat Henry. And he was a big fan of rock music, knew about the Almighty. And I just said, look, can I come in and train? How much is it? He told me the price. I said, look, I can't afford that. And he said, I'll let you train for free. You look like you need to come in and sort yourself out for a couple of weeks. Guy. And I said, okay. So I started training in the gym, and I really got into it and started picking my spirits up. And at that point as well, I'd become really, 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 friendly with Joe Elliott. And I've got to tell you this story, mate. This is a great story. Joe would call me up on a Friday night, Saturday night, and go, "Do you want to come out?" I went, "I've no money, Joe." He went, "Don't worry about the money." He says, "Let's go and get drunk and blah blah blah." This one Friday night, we head out into Dublin, and we go for a curry first. And I'm sitting with Dennis Desmond, who owns MCD, Joe Elliott, another guy called Frank McGuinness, who owns a huge trucking company. These guys are millionaires. I think I've got 50 cents in my pocket, maybe a euro if I'm lucky. And we have a curry, and we end up going to a nightclub, and I'm partying like I'm still a rock and roller with Joe and all that, VIP tables. We go into the club, and Ronnie Wood is there with Ian McLagan. Calls us over. We're sitting at the table. I'm sitting there with Joe, Ronnie Wood, Ian McLagan. Ronnie Wood's missus, champagne. 200 euro bottles of champagne just keep coming. Then we go to an after hours club. Hanging out there till 4 or 5 o'clock, and then Ronnie goes, right, time for bed. I'll get our chauffeur to drive us home. He was wonderful, by the way, really, really super guy. And he said, "Ricky, can we drop you off on the way home?" And I said, "Well, I live down by the docks in an area called Ringsend." He said, "Oh, it's on the way out to my place. We'll drop you off in the limo." So, me and Joe and Ronnie and McLagan in the limo, and it's a Monday morning. This has been a Sunday night we've gone out, actually. It was a Monday morning, and it was almost 9 o'clock. And we pull into the area Rings End. There's a church there, and there's a post office, and a couple of pubs and the store and all that. And he said, I said, Ronnie, this is great. Thank you so much. Just drop me off here. I get straight out of the limo and walked into the post office to get my unemployment check.
Oh, no.
And I'm standing in the line, and there's a couple of guys that I knew from just going in there. And one was, oh, Jesus, Ricky, how's it going, man? He says, for fuck's sake, he goes, you're looking a bit bleeding rough. He goes, what have you been up to? And I just went, nothing. I'm not feeling that great, you know. You can't say, I've just been out partying with the singer from Def Leppard, the guitar player from the Rolling Stones, and the keyboard player from the Small Faces. But you know, and you know,
that's brilliant.
Just shit like that. And anyway, to get back on track, so Pat let me train. I really got into it, and he said, look, you know, I have a health foods company. Would you? I need some deliveries, you know. So I started driving the van for his health food company and doing deliveries. I get up at 6 every morning. You know, and people have to bear in mind that, you know, 8 years earlier, I'm on stage at Donington. Now I'm around Dublin delivering, you know, protein shakes and protein sandwiches to, you know, to solicitors' firms. So I'm doing this, 6 o'clock, I finish at 2, then I go down to the gym, and Pat's like, you know, he said, look, you know, could you watch the gym tonight? Could you just watch the desk? No problem. It's more money. So I'll be doing that, got to know all the clientele. And then Pat sort of said, I think you'd be really good at being a fitness instructor. And I was like, okay. I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm still partying. I'm still doing drugs, but I'm working out like fuck at the same time. And so he said, I'll send you on a course. I'll send you on you know. So I went and did the course, and I thought, that's great. He said, you can build up your own clientele. You can work here. He said, I'll encourage you. Great opportunity. And I thought, that's great. At this point, I hadn't picked up a guitar in almost a year. I thought, I'm done with music. I don't want anything to do with music ever again. I'm going to be a fitness instructor. This is what I'm going to do at 30 years of age. So I'm in the gym and I'm working. Officially, I start on the Monday. And the Tuesday, this guy comes in and he's working out and he's staring at me. And I'm like, I know what's going on here. Is the guy want to fight or what's the deal? But he keeps looking at me, you know? So I kind of went over to him and said, you know, are you all right, sir? Can I help you with anything? Do you need anything? He explained. He went, you're Ricky Warwick? And I went, yeah. He said, I used to work for Polydor in Ireland. His name was Dara Kettle. And he said, no, I work for a publishing company, Peer Music. He said, what, do you still make any music? I said, no, I'm done with music, mate. I said, I'm finished with it. This is what I'm doing now. He said, well, do you have, who owns your catalogue? And I said, well, funnily enough, I said, I do. I just got it back about a month ago from Warner Chappell. And he said, have you written any songs? I said, well, I wrote one song about 9 months ago. I said, it's like a Johnny Cash type kind of thing, very different. But he said, I'd love to hear it. He said, could you drop me a demo? I had a demo. I said, I'll bring it next day. I said, but I'm done. I said, don't, you know. He said, well, I just want to hear it, you know, blah, blah, blah. So next morning he comes in. I give him the cassette. The following morning he comes in. He goes, that song's great. He said, I've been checking out your catalogue, and he said, is that for publishing? He said, do you want a publishing deal? Wow. And I went, no. I went, no, I don't. I said, I'm done. Thinking it would be $3,000. It was a lot more than $3,000.
Right.
And that was it. And, you know, I even get goosebumps telling you this, Toby. I got goosebumps as soon as he said that. And on the Friday, I quit my job and I was back in the music industry.
Amazing.
You know, because what he gave me was what I was probably going to make in the gym in a year anyway.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Joe Elliott was like, you got a publishing deal, right? You need to make a record. I said, I haven't got that much money. You know, he said, doesn't matter. We'll use my studio. I'll produce it. You know, you pay me back when you get a deal. So, I mean, I'm getting to you because you're a part of the story as well. So many, those sort of 3 or 4 people saw that I was hurting, never asked me if I was hurting, but knew that I was enough to help me and not sort of go, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? But just to help me. Yeah. And that was amazing. And, you know, I did the record with Joe, which was unbelievable. And, you know, there was a record deal and I was able to turn around and hand him a check for the cost of the studio and the whole thing. And that was it. I was back in the game. But I reinvented myself as this guy that was playing acoustic guitar and going to play solo and do all this kind of stuff, which was terrifying me because I hadn't played solo yet. And you know, if you'd said to me, you know, you're going to be up there without the wall of marshals and actually sing instead of shouting, because, you know, I shouted when I was in the Almighty. I didn't fucking sing. I would be like, no, I'm not doing it. But here I was, reinvented as this acoustic singer-songwriter type kind of thing. And, you know. So there you go. Sorry, bit of a long story. But
Mate, no, listen. It's a fantastic story, because I think nobody knows where they're going to go. No one's got a clue in this business. I don't think anyone's got a clue in life. But I think, you know, the things in the music business, entertainment business, as we well know, is that it's not mapped out. There is no plan. Not really. You can have an idea. You can have desires, but really the reality is you're under the duress of what happens to you by others a lot of the time. And I think your story is not. I think it's a fantastic story, but I don't think it's unusual.
No, I must add, Toby, sorry. I mean, when I was in the gym, and as much as my friend Pat was giving me that opportunity to get my life back, I was miserable. I was kidding myself.
Exactly.
I'm done with music. But as I'm saying it, I'm going, no, you're not. You love it. You live for it. It's part of your life. You miss it like hell. But I'm telling people, the words are coming out, not interested, not, and you know, I'm kind of got this voice inside me going, yes, you are. You love it. It's you. It's who you are. You're miserable, and I was, you know.
Well, I mean, I think that's classic in a way. You know, just to reiterate the sort of point here is that I think that is, you know, that essentially is a form of depression. I mean, I certainly went through a very similar thing when the Little Angels split up. I spent 10 years in total denial, even though I was trying my hardest to sort of deal with it. Really, the reality was I was heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken by the whole thing. Yeah. And it's very hard to face that. And what you do is you tend to put, I certainly did, and it sounds like you did similar things. You're looking for other things to fill that space.
Totally.
That's often, I think, for a lot of people, that's where, I mean, you know, it may not be exactly the same for you, but I think it's where a lot of the time people get into drinking and get in, and as a way of dealing with that. That's a really obvious one. But no one, I think the thing that's kind of always surprised me is that there's just the lack of support for musicians from a mental health perspective, because we're always meant to be on spot, doing our thing, being the cool guy, writing songs, being in the band, and nobody wants that to change. I always remember specifically poor old Michael Lee, who played drums for us, who, you know, ended up in the Patriot Plant. And poor old Michael died, you know, died as a result of alcohol abuse, having been some of the biggest bands in the world. And I talked to his PA, the guy that used to look after him at the wake of his funeral up in Durham, in Darlington rather, the place that he came from. He died 3 streets down away from the place he was born, in a bedsit, penniless. And the terrible, sad nature of that is that lad had the world at his feet, and nobody wanted to try and help him. Nobody tried, you know.
Yeah, nobody did, Toby, because we were the same. You know, we're in the Goldfish Bowl. We're young kids. We're signed to a major label. Nobody's telling us that tour bus or that limo that you took to the marquee or this record you just made, that's not your money. You know, we're getting our 200 quid a week and playing rock stars, and we don't know any better. And we don't want to hear sense, because you don't. My kids don't want to hear sense, but being sensible, you just don't at that age. And there's very rare is there somebody to come in and go, hey guys, just a word of warning. This is what you need to be doing with this money, or this is what you. And God, I wish we'd had that. I really do. I mean, I don't regret many things in my life. Everything's a lesson that you learn, and looking back on it. I mean, that's one of it. Leaving the Almighty, I still regret to this day, because people need to know I left the band. The band didn't break up. I went in and said, I'm leaving. I'm so responsible for the demise of that band. The guys could have carried on without me. And I would have been happy if they did. There was no problem doing that. Obviously, they didn't want to. But I went in and said, I'm done. And in hindsight, we should have just taken a break for a year and a half, 2 years, because the Almighty, I hate using the word brand, but I'm going to the brand and the logo and the whole thing. We could have still been going like Motorhead were 25, 30 years later.
I think
we could have, you know?
I think you're absolutely right. And I think, but therein lies my point, really. I think that the trouble is that, you know, the management of the human, the management of the personalities, the people, that is so undervalued and it's not. I don't think it's ever been dealt with properly. I think there are great managers out there that do deal with it. I mean, I've met a two or three of them, but I certainly felt that I wasn't dealt with like that correctly. I don't think no one ever took me aside and said, "Hang on, it's okay to feel like angry about your relationship with your guitar with Bruce, and feel that you need to express that." It's you know, but what we need to do is we're all trying to work together. No one ever trying to gently sort of help with that. There was there was no discussion. It was just like banging tables and you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And so all of a sudden those relationships start to fracture and no one's trying to pick up the pieces, because the reality is everyone's got their eye on the further horizon, which is after the band. And so that to me is these things have never get talked about. And I think this is part of the problem, is that we all have to go through the night of the long shadows. I think that's part of our growth. I think there are very, very few bands or very few artists or creators that don't have a moment where that happens to them, where it's an awakening moment. And I sort of see that in you, because I mean, we reconnected when you started playing your acoustic shows, and I had you come and play on. I was just getting back on the game as well. I mean, there are so many parallels in our career, you know.
No, mate, we both had the same agent at the time, and I had never played acoustic in front of anybody in my life. And I was obviously terrified. And you very kindly gave me a slot at the Islington Garage 18 years ago this month, mate. 2002 it was.
Stop it.
I was unannounced. You gave me a half an hour set. And, I came on and was opened up for you that night. And that was it. And then you took me out on tour with you for like 2-3 weeks around the UK. And those were the first shows that I did. And that, I never forgotten that, and thank you, mate, if I haven't thanked you already, but thank you again, because that was huge, and that was another game-changing moment in my career, because on that tour I got the confidence to be able to, okay, I can do this, I can get up there on my own and hopefully entertain people and make them enjoy what I'm doing without having to have this wall of marshals in the band and the whole thing. And you gave me that opportunity, and it was a great tour, and we had a lot of fun. I remember.
But you were great. I mean, and the thing is for me about this stuff is that it's all about the music for me. That's all I care about. All I care about is the music. Where I've probably floundered in my life is that I have especially now, I have so little interest in the stuff that surrounds that, the world of creating music. I'm only interested in writing the songs. I'm only interested in what those songs mean once they start to be played and how people react to them. All the rest of it to me is just such a load of nonsense. And I think, and because you know what, you can't, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, you cannot have one. You can't be a creator and lean on the idea that the business is going to be always there for you, because you're always going to create. It's always going to be in you, and so that's the stuff you should concentrate on. And I saw that in you. I mean, I remember that garage show so well, and you stood up there with you had and I think you still got it. You had a beautiful Gibson black acoustic guitar, and as I remember, and it sounded fantastic. And the audience,
thank you.
What they're interested, I think this is really, really true for all of us. The audience are very savvy. They are not stupid. And I think the record industry has made many mistakes in the past by just assuming that they are. And the reality is, if someone stands on the stage and plays a great song and sings great and performs and is enigmatic and connects to the audience, they will accept that. And you did that. And I think that's what's always intrigued me about you, Rick, is you're a chameleon in many ways. You have twisted and changed and found your way, and has a superb way of dealing with the changes in your life, and the challenges that so clearly you've had to face have only made you stronger. And I say that with real real honesty.
Really, thank you.
Because it's a rarity. There are people in stronger positions than you who would have crumbled under the situation. And so to find yourself, like we just talked together recently. You very kindly returned the favour and had Wayward Sons,
which was great, which was brilliant.
Black Star Riders, and to see you on those stages, in front of those audiences, yet again, still doing your thing is a joy to behold, because that's what it's all about. It's about longevity. We are lifers in this business.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, it's in our DNA. I'm like you. It's all about the music and the songs. And naively, maybe that some people look at that, it's like the business side of it doesn't interest me. I've learned to deal with it. I've learned to be a little bit more wise, a little bit more astute as I've got older, just through necessity. But again, I mean, I'm writing at the minute, and I treat it as a job. You know, when the world is normal, I get up at 6:30, get my daughter ready for school, drop her at school. I go to the gym for an hour and a half, come back, and I go and I write every day. Even though I got nothing to say, even if it's complete rubbish, I make myself write something. Yeah. So it's time to pick my daughter up from school. That's how I treat it. I'm going to work. It's not just, I need to go to a cabin in the woods. People would laugh if they saw, where I write the albums with, my daughters coming in and out and her friends coming in and out and the cat jumping up and, I'm lucky. It's just, and I don't have that luxury. I mean, I literally went up to the desert right before all this virus stuff happened. I just went up for 2 or 3 days, and as amazing as it was, did I get any more done on the isolation in the desert? No, not really. It didn't. It didn't serve a purpose. I kind of thrive on the chaos. I kind of go, okay, I need to pick my daughter up in 45 minutes. That means I've got 45 minutes to finish this verse. Yeah, and that's how I work, and I like that, and I'm just so passionate about it. And people, why don't you go and get another job again? That's the most insulting thing that you can say to somebody, because I do what I love. Why should I do something I don't love? And my kids have wanted for nothing. I put my family before everything, as we both do. And they're the first bills and the first things that get paid every month. Are they okay? They have clothes, they have food, they have everything at school. Absolutely. That's it, And I mean, I have a daughter who's turning 23 this year. And so I had it, she was born in 1997, right when I was at a complete mess, couldn't even look after myself. In 23 years, I have not missed one child support payment, ever. And I'm not saying that because I want a pat in the back, because that's what's important. Yeah. I had a lovely collection of guitars when I left the Almighty. I would sell one every month to make sure that happens. So I'm not shirking my responsibilities, but music is my life. Yeah. And I think I'm fairly good at it. And I know that you believe the same thing as well. So when people go, it's not real or it's not a proper job, fuck them, because it is.
Mate, amen to that. I could not agree with you more. Man, listen, it's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you. I just want just to finish it off, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, because I'm sure we could talk all night.
No, this has been amazing. It's been really good, Toby. I loved it.
Oh, great stuff. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. We'll do it again, because I'm intending to sort of run these podcasts again and again.
Absolutely.
And keep them up, because I think it's really good to keep the conversations going. So I just want to end with a couple of really simple questions. I mean, this is a bit of an obvious one, but I think it's really important. I want to know, what are your goals now? What clearly you're still very ambitious, and that's absolutely fantastic. But is there anything that you really would love to do that you haven't done yet? It doesn't have to be music. It can be being an actor or whatever, or owning a motorbike and riding across America, whatever. What gets Ricky Warwick up in the morning? What's the desires that are left?
It's still the music and still writing songs. I mean, I can honestly in my hand and heart say there's nothing that I kind of go, I need to go and climb that mountain. Or, I've done some TV work for the BBC. I did the Rock and Roll Highway thing, which was amazing, about the whole, Scots-Irish influence on rock and roll, and that was amazing. I've got another one in the pipeline to do for them, about Robert Burns, believe it or not, which, and I love that kind of stuff. But it's just, it's writing a better song, writing a different song. That's what inspires me. And I can't think of anything more gratifying. I'm sure you can't, when you've written a song and you know it's a good one. Yeah. And that feeling when it's finished and you walk away from it, and then you go to bed and you get up the next morning and you look at it and it's still good, and you go,
it's still as good as it was.
It's a belter, and you can't beat that feeling. And that's what I aspire to. I mean, somebody like Springsteen, there's not enough admiration in the universe that I have for that guy, because he's the example. Doesn't need the money, does not need to work as hard as he does, but the guy works himself crazy, because he can tell how much he loves it and what a passion it is for him, And that's what I aspire to be like. I still want to be 70 years old and touring and playing,
Oh, man. And I know you, and you know what? I know you will be. You're an absolute inspiration, Ricky. You really are.
Thanks, brother. You too, man.
Wonderful. So just for a bit of fun to finish off, I ask every single one of my podcasters this question. I want you to sum up in 3 words, just 3 words, most negative aspects of you and the most positive aspects of you?
You know, you sort of give me a heads up on this, so I went and asked my wife the negative stuff, and I kind of knew it anyway. So I'm moody. I can be very moody. I can be very indecisive, and I'm a daydreamer.
Okay, I'm not certain that's a bad thing though, right?
Well, I can date, and sometimes when I should be getting on with stuff, you know, I can, the whole head in the clouds thing. I can be a bit sort of out to lunch when I need to be focused. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'll take that then. So that's three really good ones, though. I like that. So what about the positive aspects of yourself? And it's nothing to do with arrogance. This is just how you value yourself.
Loyalty, loving, and motivated.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much, Rick. It's been an absolute joy.
No, thank you, mate. It's been wonderful, and you know, it's been great. And listen, anytime, we've got to do some more shows together as well.
We definitely will. We definitely will. And you know, it's I'm hoping that once this sort of virus thing is over, and we can, I think one thing that will happen, I'm hoping will happen, because there has been an enormous outpouring of support for the musicians online. I think that's been one that's been really, really exciting, is that all the fans, because this is one great thing about the internet, isn't it? The close connection with our fan group,
absolutely,
fan base. And I'm hoping that once this virus stuff is cleared away, we can start doing shows again. That what people will realise is how much they've missed the music.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I was just on with talking to our guitar player, Christian Martucci this morning, and I just said, I said, this is the longest I think I've been off a stage, and I can remember. I said, it's killing me, I'm just the desire to get up there and play, just to let it all out is so it's so frustrating. But we'll get there. This will pass, and we'll all come back stronger, bigger, and better.
Brilliant, mate.
I believe that.
Fantastic. Well, listen, you have yourself a great rest of the day, and see you on the other side, my friend.
Thanks to Ricky Warwick there for joining us on Toby and the Whole Truth. I'll be back next time with another fascinating character to tell us all about their experiences in the music and entertainment business. Until then, take care of yourselves. I've been Toby Jepson. This has been Toby and the Whole Truth podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.
While most of us exist